Welcome back, folks, to WP-Tonic. This week in WordPress and tech, we've got a small panel. Some others might be joining us, but we've got a powerful panel though. They're travelled or lacking sleep, but they still join us. They're much appreciated. We've got some fabulous stories to discuss. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and then we're straight in. I've got my co-host, Andrew Palmer. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Andrew Palmer, a current resident of the United States because I just can't get out of here because flights keep on getting cancelled. So I'm in Chicago and I'm Bertha.ai.
Yes, one day they might release you. I've got my friend Heather. Heather, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the tribe?
Hi, I'm Heather Wildready. I am the Digital Solutions Lead at The Difference Consulting.
Thanks, Heather. I've got my close friend, John. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
John from Lockdown SEO.
And I've got my friend Spencer. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry for being late. Spencer Foreman from WP Launchify.
No problem at all. Before we go into our great stories, and I think we have got some really interesting stories here, we're going to go for our break and listen to one of my major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, so we're going straight into it, and we've got a story here that caused a bit of a stir in the WordPress Twitter sphere. ACF solicitates lifetime license holders for contributing, urging them to purchase annual subscriptions. This is a tavern story. It was also Paul from WP-Top produced the video. So, Spencer, what is your views around this particular story, Spencer?
I think it's a great idea. You get married, you promise to have, family and kids. And then after you get married, you say, I'm becoming a swinger and, choose to pay me to go out and have fun. I mean, essentially, this is just an example of what were you thinking? Kind of similar to that one plugin that, was the free plugin that did the avatars and then they changed it overnight into it does something else and we want you to pay money for it. I wonder what goes through people's minds, but I want to bring up some other point. This week, I'm sure it's the same people involved. There was another issue where Access Ally, Nathalie Luther's product, sorry, I botched how I said, but Nathalie's product, showed up on the site where you can buy websites as being for sale. I don't know if we want to promote the name of it, but the point is, it shows up for sale, and I was thinking that's odd. And Jack slacked me. He's like, "Is this really for sale? You should buy it." It was like $50,000 to buy accessally.com. And I went over to the site, and it's one of the same guys. I'm almost sure of it. Runs that site as runs this business. So I'm thinking that either there's a problem of management, maybe they're just not self-aware, or maybe they're drinking a lot or something, because there's no other explanation here that makes sense.
I might be slow this morning. I'm not totally following what you were saying.
What's the name? Help me out, one of you guys. What's the name of the site that does
It's Flip WP. It was announced on Flip WP as well. But the thing is
Flipper, yeah. What a terrible name. What a terrible name.
It was announced in Flip WP's email as well.
Okay, so in Flippa, I'm 100% sure almost that one of the guys who runs Flippa is one of the principals of who bought ACF, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Delicious Brains, right?
Which one?
Delicious Brains bought ACF.
Yeah, Delicious Brains, right. So, but I'm not sure which of the name shows up here because I got to look to see who's the person. But I saw the face, and then I saw this controversy, and I thought to myself, there's a crisis of management going on because...
Well, it does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, let me just make the one last point, and then I'll just get out of this conversation, is that here's why this is a bad idea. You have to maintain the consistency of your promise forever. because people don't forget. This isn't politics. This isn't like certain Republicans in the United States who say one thing and forget there's a video camera, or even Democrats. The point is that they don't forget, and the people in the WordPress community will punish you like outright for this, as you can see. And it didn't matter whether it was Paul Charlton or somebody else who broke the story. This would have come out, and it's just really weird and bad because they had otherwise a product that has a lot of goodwill, but now ACF is going to be associated with this controversy, and Delicious Brains, I think, is going to suffer a little bit for it as well. Maybe they'll recuperate it.
Well, I think it's very sad. The whole thing is sad. I'm not going to vent like I vent around GoDaddy, because this is a small coding shop and a small business. And I used to listen to Brad when he was doing his podcast with Pippin Williamson. And I used to
Ian Poulsen, that's the guy who's in charge of flipping.
And I used to religiously listen to their podcasts because it was great to listen to their discussions. But it's really sad, and his credibility in my eyes has been severely damaged by this whole affair. And I really don't understand what was going on in their minds. So, Andrew, what do you think?
As a person that does lifetime deals and supports lifetime deals, I can see their point, because they've taken over a business, loads of, which was a one-man business, and he was surviving very nicely on it, sold it to Delicious Brains, really, really excellent company. James Poulsen is, I have lots of conversation with him on Twitter and stuff like that. And I can see their point, but if you do, I recently took over a few plugins, and a lot of them were on lifetime. I've honored them because that's just the way it is. You have to say, there's the inventory that's made up of lifetimes and it's made up of subscriptions. Is it worth buying that company? Because I know that I'm going to have to redevelop this, I'm going to have to maintain it, and I'm going to support it. So they should have made that decision right at the very beginning. There was a bit of it's not controversial in and of itself to ask people to contribute more to a lifetime license. It's controversial because they said they weren't quick enough to say they were going to honor those lifetime licenses. So there's controversy beforehand as well. Yeah. So when they bought it, they said they took.
I think it's called transparent. I think it's called they just transparency, isn't it?
So did they think about it enough? Did they do due diligence? Have they literally got 30,000 lifetime members and 5,000 or 500 paying members? So will the plugin be able to support itself? Will it be able to be self-liquidating? So on that subject, they kind of went about it the wrong way. And what Spencer is saying, I think, is that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And so they need to be able to get together and sort out what the communications are going to be and what the future plans are going to be, not just for ACF, but for the whole of Delicious Brains. Because once you acquire one business or one plugin, you're going to be in the market to acquire more, because other plugin developers will come to you and say, buy me. And now this is going to damage that process of growth, because the plugin developers are going to say, it's a bit of a shit show, guys, with ACF. How are you going to protect me from my users when I exit? Because people are worried about getting lambasted in the press. But the whole approach of asking people to recontribute in the way that they did it was not executed particularly well.
Well, I think it was bizarre, but there we go. Heather, I don't know if you had time to have a quick look at this email that they sent out, and it was just, I just found the whole thing extremely bizarre. But
well, I mean, I understand. Like, basically, I think it has to do with people don't plan ahead. Like, people are not really thinking strategically in business anymore, and especially if you're especially if you're a novice business owner. So where this comes from is, like, you offer a lifetime deal, you're not clear on what you're offering, and like, by saying we're going to give you free updates forever, it's like, that's not what you should offer when you're offering a lifetime deal. Like, you should say, like, we're going to give you, like, up to a certain version or whatever. So now they've gotten themselves kind of like in a corner. They're realizing that they've sold too many of them, that it's costing them too much money, and they can't afford it. And rather than like doing a mea culpa, like some people have done, and say like, we're sorry, we really can't afford this, we're going to buy you out, we're going to refund you or whatever. They're just like, oh, by the way, like, so I mean, I think that there's other ways they could have handled this, but it's just showing that they're novices.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, I think you summed it up really well, Heather. It really does show a level, which is rather. But my experience of listening to the podcast when they were discussing business things, when he was discussing business with Pippin Williamson, which I considered as a coder and as a business owner a pretty sharp individual.
A lot of people can read a business book and sound smart. Like, you can just spout things off.
Well, I never managed to do it, Heather.
I've never managed to do it either, Heather.
No. But I mean, like, a lot of people, I mean, there's so many people that are like spewing like marketing and business tips, but have no actual understanding of what they're saying.
Well, if you can't do it, teach.
Yeah. I mean, like, you don't hear me giving, I mean, I give advice to people, but I'm not out there spending time all the time doing this stuff, because I'm working, I'm building businesses. So.
I have to add a retraction clarification. I was confused about the Flippa. So Ian is at Flip WP, not at Flippa. Yeah, I saw that other listing on Flippa. So
yeah, but he emailed a listing. That's why you got confused, because he emailed it to say that it's up for sale on Flip.
Yeah, but I'm confused. What's up for sale though?
It was a mistake, but somebody had put it. Sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
Access Alley was advertised as being up for sale on Flipper. Sorry, Spence, but
is it?
And yeah, it was. And Flip WP, which Ian Paulson is part of, emailed that out, and it was on Flipper. And it was.
Oh, really? So it is officially, her business is officially up for sale.
No, that's the point.
Officially a scam.
It was just a scam, basically.
Oh, right. Well, thank you for clarifying that, because she will be you, and also I think she'd be asking a little bit more than $50,000 for it.
We just discovered a way that you can get back at your competitors to annoy them. Is that apparently you go ahead and you list somebody's company and their domain for sale on Flippa, and Flippa doesn't apparently credit check things very well either, because it happened not once but twice.
They've got enormous credibility, haven't they? John, what's your thoughts about this?
Okay, I am a subscriber to Delicious Brains Migrate Database Pro. I am a lifetime license holder of ACF, but I've bought plenty of one-off ones when I was doing site builds all the time. This thing that is this announcement, two things that I've noticed. A bunch of people, mostly plugin authors, but other people in the WordPress community seem to have a lot of disdain for the customer base, because I've seen a lot of people, like two handfuls of people, saying, oh, well, if these were my customers, I'd tell them take a hike, or, the WordPress community is cheap. It's like, okay.
You're in it, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. It's not about the money. It's about keeping your word. Bottom line, that's what it's about.
Well, it's your credibility. It takes years to build business credibility, and it takes about a few minutes to totally lose it, doesn't it?
And they knew about these lifetime deals when they made the acquisition, and I have a feeling that they thought that there was going to be more new signups, and perhaps those signups are slowing down, or whatever. They're not making as much revenue as they anticipated. But if they ever do go away from honoring those lifetime licenses, the WordPress community will remember, because again, it's not necessarily about the money. Migrate Database Pro and ACF are two of the plugins that have the most goodwill in this community up until now. A lot of people were super happy to support Elliot Condon, and he just got, I think he just, it's time for him to exit. But you know, it's just about keeping your word more than it is the money. And I hope people do realize that. And you know, other plugin authors, be careful about dissing like the other customers in this community, because it's a bad look.
I want to add one. I want to add one little. Sorry. Here's
no,
the
go on.
reason that I find this tragic. Okay, it'll be fine. They'll work it out.
Yeah.
All they had to do was spin off a new product. That's it. They only had to just take ACF and make ACF 2022. It's the new version. It's like, that's classic Silicon Valley. Hello, Heather would speak up on this, but that's like when you take an amazing product like Sketch and you fuck it up and make it a new name and sell it under a new brand.
It still works, dude.
You're laughing all the way to the bank. You don't care about it. I'm just saying, like, the point is that's how it's done. You take the old product, you rebrand it, you send it out, people buy it, they stay with classic, or they go to the new product, and then everybody wins because you don't take away from people what they paid a lifetime for. But there's also an inherent danger. That's the conversation we had many months ago about, remember, lifetime at all. And the only reason I converted or switched into the idea after Andrew and Vito got on me about it was, if you understand the risks and you're willing to make the marriage. Don't then come back later and pretend like you didn't make that commitment.
And I think you have to limit the lifetime. You know, a lot of these AppSumo deals, the companies are literally breaking under the weight because AppSumo takes so much commission to pay for the advertising. You know, we can argue about that all the day. You know, they've got to earn a living as well, and they've got, you know, 1.3 million customers that they can punt their stuff out to. But we've done a lifetime, and it is genuinely limited. We've sold a few over.
Is it? Because I bought one. I didn't see it was limited.
It says only 30 available. We sold quite a little few more than 30, but you know, it's just the way it is. I'm very grateful that you bought one.
My wallet. So there we go. I hope you
bought it. You know the owner.
Because we'll be having a little chat otherwise.
Yeah, I know.
So there we go. On to the next story. How Jack Dorsey failed Twitter. Right, Heather. I thought, I thought there were some good points in this. I also thought it was a little bit unfair to Jack, but I think some of the things that are pointed out in this article had some merit as well. Obviously, Jack has, declared he's resigning from Twitter and going back to Square. What was your thoughts about this article, Heather?
So, I mean, I think that, in the article, they're ragging on Jack for all of the things that he's tried to monetize Twitter and added things and changed Twitter, but mostly about how he's kind of checked out, or it seems that he has. And honestly, like, if I were Jack and if I had changed the conversation of the world and the way that people communicate worldwide, then I'd be checked out too. And so the main thing that he should have done is left Twitter a long time ago. You know, I mean, like, I'm actually really excited about the things that he's created. And I mean, it's not his fault really that Twitter hasn't monetized the way that like Facebook has, because he's actually kind of kept it.
I didn't think that was a great example, because it wasn't really, because, you know, it's like one extreme to the other. But what about, I think you can play some criticism of the kind of things that they've been trying haven't seemed to be that it doesn't, as a platform, seem to have been moved forward to any degree.
But it doesn't need to. I mean, that's the thing.
No, that's true.
Twitter is like, Twitter works the way it needs to. And like, I mean, it's always meant to be like allowing you to see the instant voice of people around the world, and like allowing you to enter the conversation. And so like the main things that he's added, the main things that he's added throughout the years are things that allow you to see like the trending topics, which, like, so I mean, if anything, like the algorithms that have been harmful are like the fact that people actually are having conversations around things, but it hasn't ever been as easy to game the Twitter algorithm as it has been like the Facebook algorithm. So I mean, I think that like he's created something really cool that has been useful for many years. And yeah, I mean, so because he's only been like half-heartedly trying to monetize it, that's why people drag him.
Right, John, what did you think? Because I thought some of the criticism in the article had some merit, but some of the other criticism I thought was a bit mean myself and not that balanced. What was your feelings about the article, John?
Well, okay, like Twitter has never been and never will be as big as Facebook or even YouTube or anything like that. And that is seen as a failing in Silicon Valley, which is a shame because, as Heather pointed out, it is a revolutionary platform. It honestly, I think that it's a great platform in the aspect that you're able to get news up to the minute. And we've seen many instances of that. It's an amazing tool for that. I think one of the problems with Twitter and the great feeling of it, and as well as Facebook, is they have not been able to weed out the bots and the sock puppet accounts, and they have not been willing.
Well, I'm willing to do it, I think.
Yeah,
would be a more
and they
fair.
haven't been willing to weed out the neo-Nazis as they're required to do in France and Germany, which they weed them out there, but they don't in the UK or in the United States.
And I think a lot of that is down to Jack's quasi-libertarian attitudes,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's no good. Well, I can tell you what it is. They were not profitable up until 2016, and you can put 2 and 2 together with that. The other part of it is if they eliminate all the sock puppet accounts and all the people in the Russian
Bolts
spam farm that are there to incite controversy. If they eliminate all those, then their monthly average users is going to go down, and they're going to look less attractive to investors. And that is one of the major reasons why they haven't dealt with this. Controversy and stuff, it creates engagement.
Yeah, but I think the piece in the element of the piece that I agree with is I think they should introduce membership because it would make it look. But I don't know. So Spencer, I think there's some enmity between the author of this piece and Jack. I don't think they're the best of friends, are they? So you could sense some real enmity in the article. And Jack's a bit of he's a bit of, eccentric would be the polite way to say it, but he's been a pretty, he established 2 major companies, which isn't to say is not an easy thing. It would be an understatement. So I was mixed about this article, Spencer, because I thought there were some good points, but there was a bit of enmity and unfairness in it as well. What was your feelings?
I mean, the difficulty being a public figure is there's always going to be haters, and no matter how well you do, that's just the game, right? Like poor Michael Jackson got accused of all kinds of things that, maybe that wasn't true. So Jack has his issues, but in terms of Heather's point, I would tend to agree. If you're an entrepreneur, establish something that gets attraction, and then you got a board of directors and investors, there comes a point at which it's detrimental to stick around, right? I mean, even Bill Gates eventually gave it up to Paul Allen, and now there's down the road, Ballmer gave it up to the other fella, and Microsoft is doing much better financially. In this case, there was one part of the article that was actually practical criticism. I don't understand in an ad-free place like Twitter why they simply don't say, if you have this many followers, you pay this much money. If you have many followers, because it's absolutely true. The Kardashians and the Trumps and all the other people that have tens or hundreds of thousands or millions, they would absolutely pay money out the wazoo because it's cheaper than any other kind of advertisement of any kind. So that's it.
Yeah, that was the part I agreed with. What's your feeling, Andrew? Because it was a very mixed. I had a very mixed feeling about the article. Really.
Yeah, I didn't like it really, and I think he was talking about it from an investor's perspective as well, because he talked, the penultimate paragraph or even the last paragraph is about investment and how much he made on the Twitter shares. So I think he's talking about that perspective. If you talk about it from what's starting to annoy me, and I've had as you know, I've been now 17 days in the US, and I've spent a lot of time with a lot of people that are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and stuff. And what we've come to the conclusion is, or certainly what I've come to the conclusion is that we are now not celebrating people's successes, right? We have to acknowledge that Twitter is a phenomenal success, right? So celebrate the guy for his successes. Yeah, criticize him for splitting his time between businesses, but I've got half a dozen businesses that I dip in and out of, and so does Heather, and she's gone now. So I had to go off to another meeting. But Spencer and I had lunch the other day, which was great, near Chicago, and we had a great conversation about the fact that the internet and some of the WordPress community, and even talking about ACF and those problems there. What we have to do is we have to celebrate these people that actually have businesses in the WordPress community and in the social media community, because it's really tough running a business. I don't think anybody says it's really tough. And rather than say Jack Dorsey's an idiot and we're glad he's gone, just say thanks, Jack Dorsey, for what you started. And let's hope that we can, with Agawal, that we can improve it, because they've employed a tech guy. Jack's not a tech guy. So, and also what he's done with Square, which he's now renamed to Box.xyz, then that's a multi-million-dollar company as well. So these people are employing thousands of people. Let's celebrate that first, and then say, thanks for all the fish. It's time for you to move on to something else.
Yeah, I think you made some good points. Just to finish off, there's some aspect of Jack's personality that I don't find enormously attractive, but there's other parts. But it's like with most people, I'm sure, Andrew, there's parts of my personality you don't find that attractive, but there's 92%. Other parts. And there's other parts. So, but there was a general meanness in the article, wasn't there?
Yeah, but he was talking from a perspective of an investor and how he feels about the potential for him to lose money on his investment or to make money on the investment. He feels now that it's going to be a 3-digit investment. So the last paragraph is the key to where he is coming from. He thinks it's not going to be a $45 a share, it's going to be a triple amount. It'd be $150 a share, and that's where he's talking from, I think.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go for our break. We've got some other good stories. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. I just want to point out that if you want some recommendations from the tribe about plugins, WordPress services, products that I believe in, just go to WP-Tonic/recommendations, and there's a whole list there of products and services that I have bought, used, or I think are the best in the WordPress ecosystem. So have a look and buy some of them. On to story 3, which I kind of bumped up because I reread it and I thought it was quite a brave article. It's from the Tavern. It's from the editor. I think he seems to have gone off message. I'm not sure if this particular article will go down that well with the actual owners of the Tavern. I don't know. What do you reckon, Spencer? I thought I was quite.
Are we on the Ask the Bartender article?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, is that my fan? Or I'm hearing like a noise in the background.
Yeah, no, it's mine. I'm in a basement in the Termageddon HQ.
Okay.
So
pop your mute on or something there for a second.
Okay.
Because I'm definitely
figure it out.
The doornail and I can hear it. The thing about this particular article is somebody asked him the question straight up, and I mean, Justin's answering the question, but he sort of deflected it to the thing. And you know, a couple months ago, I did a thing for the WP Minute about why don't we have a canvas theme. So I was hoping.
Well, but the problem was, Spencer, it wasn't a minute.
I know, yeah, it's with WP 10 minutes. I can never speak for less than a minute. I mean, that's just, you know me to love me.
Yeah, but it ended up 30 minutes.
Matt told me that was one of his very well responded to points. So if I didn't put you to sleep, the point I'm making is I was hoping when I read this that Justin, who I have a high admiration for a lot of reasons, would go towards, look how great Gutenberg is going to be because blankety blank in the default theme. But instead, he sort of went down the path, which it seems like he's either not answering the question or deflecting, which is to say, look at this 2022 theme. It's got 6 different colors of backgrounds. And I felt like I was in some sort of like conversation with the person that wasn't hearing me or something, because the whole point here is we're this close. I'm holding my fingers together for those on the audio only. We're this close to this coming together. When I've been having my workshops and my private client conversations, I have die-hard visual composer people doing backflips when I show them how simple things can be in a Gutenberg page. Sure, it needs a couple little doodads here and there, but they go, wow. If you start promoting and talking about the 2022 theme and all this, people just immediately glaze over and think you're like 10 years behind. And I think that's the problem, is that WP Tavern is one of the respected sources of information, and Automatic is not promoting this themselves. Who the F is going to promote the fact that we're sitting on a wealth of potential here?
Yeah,
nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think you are right about that, but I also think you were a little bit unfair about the article, but I'll see what the other panel...
Because the people were saying about, I'm used to using page builders, but their performance hits and all the rest of the stuff is a drag, and it kind of is. Like, for example, Andrew's the Divi expert here, but like Divi is already well known for being a bit of a drag, even though it's improved, and Elementor has become bloated. For example, recently, it occurred to me on most of my demo sites that I need 512 megabytes of PHP minimum in order for Elementor to even load. Now, that's a drag because not that many people have a 512 setup in their PHP. Most of them are at like 128 at best on a good day, maybe 256. So to compare that with like natively going into Gutenberg and hoo-ha is seemingly like something that should be primary conversation at this point.
True. So, John, I thought it was a really interesting. I was quite impressed that he actually published this because it wasn't totally on message, was it? I got the feeling.
Well, not totally, but they have to address these concerns because the person asking the question, these are not the only people in the community that are facing these questions. Now, there are definitely sites being built in all different types of ways, whether it's with a page builder or native Gutenberg or people using other page builders or whatever they're doing. But the strength of WordPress, the whole reason why WordPress has gotten to be as big as it has, is there was a flexibility to using it. And Gutenberg is promising that we can have that flexibility. And as Spencer said, it's really close. But I think a lot of people are still more comfortable with a page builder like Elementor or whatever. And I think that's the issue. There's people still more comfortable with that than they are with Gutenberg at this moment. So I think it's up to the project to get us to the finish line when it comes to that, to show people that it can be as easy as possible. And I do think like a blank theme, like a canvas theme would be useful too if we're promising full site editing. So I think that would go a long way.
So what do you reckon, Andrew?
I love the title because I actually wrote a blog post about 15 years ago about, we were talking in a pub about SEO, and this barman piped up and went, "Oh, you got to use Yoast," or where it was 10 years ago, where however long ago, why are you using all-in-one SEO? You know, that's crap. I know
always listen to a barman, don't you?
You know, you're an SEO expert. Well, yeah. Well, I used to be. I said, well, now you're a barman. So, and there's nothing wrong with being a barman.
No,
I've been a barman. It's not
it's like a London taxi driver.
You're out of the business. We had a character on British TV. You know, it was the lots of money kind of guy.
Loads of money.
You don't want to do it like that, you know.
Loads of money.
And this is what this article is about. You don't want to do it like that. You know, there's other stuff. And what John said about when, you know, we're used to Elementor and everything. People were used to horse and carts, John, you know, and then they all of a sudden they had cars. And they were so used to horse and carts and they were so afraid of cars that they had a red flag guy walking in front of the car, you know, to say danger, danger. Progress. Gutenberg is the future. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say it. I've managed to persuade, you know, lots of people like Spencer that it's the future.
Well,
Spencer
it is, but it's just taken a very long time to get
there.
But
it will. Progress takes time. You know, we were talking about robots in the 1800s, and we still haven't got them. So it takes time for progress. So just bear with it. I think talking about, you know, what Spence says, talking about a 2022 theme is just beyond me, really. And I would have expected more from Justin because he's a talented writer. And I think this is a lazy article. I
read it a second time and
I just think it's lazy. He hasn't done, you know, he just needed to push something out and have a clickbait title, and it's just a lazy article, and he needs to up his game because Gutenberg's the future. Let's talk about it.
What's worse is when it deflects, because whether it's lazy or it's just wrong, the fact is that somebody then who goes to the tavern, who's on the fence or doesn't know any better, it perpetuates or further alters their opinion in a negative direction, versus if they were to be shown by somebody they respect, like Justin, like, wait, check it out. Like, it's right here, right around the corner. Yeah. That's the problem that I'm personally involved in, which is being an advocate for the platform of WordPress as it is and will be, because everybody else is still like in their own little like personal vertical of expertise.
This is what James Marsden of Poodle Press is doing. He is 100% into Gutenberg, and he's producing plugins. He's got a little block injector plugin that he's made WooCommerce really easy to operate with Gutenberg. He's got these little blocks. We've got Cadence. We've got, you know, a load of people getting into blocks and getting into the Gutenberg theme, and full site editing will be here soon. You know, let's not forget the full site editing has only just come to Divi in the last 2 weeks, right? 2 to 3 weeks. We put with Divi Layout Injector, we made full site editing 3 years ago, but to actually build it into the theme, it's really hard. You know,
it's irrelevant to be. Let's be honest. It's irrelevant to whether you can use it today, because if you're using Cadence or Blocksy or any of the other ones, they've already got all the controls necessary to handle the header, footer, sidebar, custom post types. It's just not in the native editor, but who cares, because they've got inside of the blocks for free.
It's what people want, Spencer. They don't want to pay for another plugin. They don't want to add another plugin. They don't want to add another block. They want it all in. They want the kitchen sink and the 15-bedroom mansion in one thing, and that will then make WordPress itself bloated. Look what happened to Elementor. It was the fastest page builder out there. Now they've got all of this stuff in it that isn't necessarily necessary.
You can really turn it. You are correct about that.
And Divi did the same. Divi is now it is a pain to use, but it's still, in my view, you know, I can spin up a site in half an hour, 45 minutes to 4 hours, whatever. So, you know, but whatever page.
Well, there's a reason why it's, you know, it's a reason why it's popular. But I just put it.
Gutenberg. Tell you.
I just put it to you and Spencer. There's also a reason why Gutenberg that hasn't taken off as much as it has. There is a reason, and I think this article points out a little bit. Right, let's go on to the next.
No, what is it? What is the reason?
Tell us the reason.
I haven't really worked it out really myself. To be quite truth. No, honestly,
Oh, I
haven't.
thought you had a point, because the point I thought you were going to say.
I guarantee no points, Spencer.
Here, the bottom line, in my view of this, is really simple. Andrew just touched on it. Just like in the original origins of the other page builders, you start out with the core things, but there's always like a missing feature. The third-party market fills it in, but then you've got the problem of like, they all want to make enough money to be worth it, so they make 50 blocks when really they only needed one. Now you got 15 people making 50 blocks, and you have 500 blocks all competing. Even right now, if I have Cadence blocks and Blocksy, and I've got this and that, there's 4 major makers of blocks. Now I've got 15 header blocks. When I want to do a header, I got 15 blocks. Why can't just Gutenberg Core have the functionality that most people need so that we can reconcile with what we have today?
Yeah,
the things that are obviously capable. Like, I don't want to say steal their code, but like if the automaticians who are doing the core just looked at what Cadence Blocks does and just borrows the code and plops it in there.
But the point is, it isn't stealing because it's all under open source, isn't it? But and the other fact, but the fact is, we're almost 3 years into this project, and you're talking about some fundamental things that should have been done a lot earlier.
Like electric cars. We've had really good electric cars for a decade now, maybe more, and yet we're still, the major car makers and the oil companies are just, we're talking 5 more years in the future. And it's like, why? Because everybody gets excited. There's that new Revon truck, right? That's like super crazy, $75,000, but it's like every fantasy toy in a truck you could ever want, to the point where somebody like me would actually buy a truck. And I'm saying, why is it that every car manufacturer hasn't jumped in? Because everybody's got their particular things and their silos and their financial motives, and everybody's working at odds. And that's the conversation that I keep coming back to, is there's no thoughtful leadership at Automatic that represents the makers in a way that the makers would all benefit from being organized. Automatic is doing what they need and want to do to benefit Automatic, and that's apparently choking off the funding for like borrowing good ideas and putting it into core, because that's just not on their agenda. Whereas the independent people keep creating amazing stuff. But then we've got a marketplace of 50,000 people competing with the same features, and we're all in the middle going, what's wrong? Why can't we make this work?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. On to story 4. On user tracking and industry standards on privacy. So, John, what did you think of this one, John?
Yeah, so this one is from CSS Tricks. And, I talked to a lot of people where they don't want to use Google Analytics because of tracking. And as Chris Coyer breaks down in this article, you can't, at least in Google Analytics, you can't, figure out who's an individual is. It's all aggregate demographic data. And in his case, he's selling ads based on traffic and impressions and things like that. So he has to have some sort of numbers that he can point at to sell to his advertisers. Now, the article also looks at Mailchimp Analytics, which you can figure out, who opened an individual email. And so I think he said in this article that he's now disabling that. Look, here's how it goes down in the real world. People who aren't in the web dev space or not in the web design space, they want to know who's opening their emails. I've had clients ask me before, can we figure out like who comes to our site and get their email? Like, is there a way to do that? Can we? And there's products that will do this, as long as you're, accessing from a work computer. I've had people ask all kinds of weird things, like that. In the real world, like a lot of these clients, they want to capture as much information and then market to people as possible. There's a lot of, real businesses that will, if they could get your email, your name, your phone number, your, cat's name
Yeah.
from you visiting the website, they would do that. So I mean, yeah, I understand, like, you know, this article, but there's a lot of people that are running businesses that, you know, this is not how they think.
Yeah, Spencer. It's a bit like the Twitter story, Spencer. I had kind of two competing feelings around this article. What was your spin on it, Spencer?
First of all, I love Chris Coyer, and CSS Tricks was one of the first sites that I relied upon to become an expert at CSS. So I love that he's there, and if he's got to do what he's got to do. I saw when he grew the site, you know, from like an idea to whatever, and it's become the Bible of this topic. But here's the deal. I think that it's exhausting as an American dealing with American businesses when I have to deal with people in Great Britain or, you know, the continent of Europe, because they all have to deal with GDPR. They have to deal with cookie law. They have to deal with like these ridiculous tax laws and other. I mean, it makes us look like we're living in paradise in America. But the bottom line is that's what's causing this anxiety. The anxiety is not that the data isn't already out there being taken, because everybody with a phone is getting massacred. Everybody with an Alexa or, you know, Siri is getting massacred.
Your ladies.
But the people who are paying the price, and this is where I see she heard me. The people who are paying the price are the simple, basic website owners. They're being given this huge burden and threat of penalty if, God forbid, you know, that Andrew Palmer visited the site and Andrew's into, you know, dog racing or something like that. The point of the story,
and Andrew doesn't care.
Right? The point is they should. It's not.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Because they've got a phone. They've got a phone that's tracking everything they do.
Here's the last metaphor. As a products liability trial attorney, which I did for many, many years, we would learn about, you know, putting warning labels on devices. But there comes a point at which we talked about this. There comes a point at which the warning label is ridiculous, because Andrew's got some clients that he's dealing with there that are trying to make like terms of service and, you know, instantly for companies. You put one label on, it's good. Two labels, three. By the time the product is littered with every possible label to cover everything, it's useless because people glaze over. That's what's happening on a European website. I got my cookie law banner. Then I've got my terms of service. Then I got my privacy policy. Then I've got my, like, we got to remove it for GDPR. And by the time you're done as a site owner, it's like, fuck's sake. So I'm saying it would be brilliant if there was one way you go to a website and you say, I agree that whatever I'm doing here, you're tracking me, tagging me, marketing to me and everything, and just let's get on with it.
Yeah, I'm sitting with that conversation was at Termageddon HQ, which is where I'm sitting in the TARDIS room.
Yes.
And actually I've been going into this quite a lot because I've been staying with the Termageddon guys, Hans and Donata, for this was unscheduled to stay here this day. I just missed a flight. But you know, we were at R3 and then I stayed for 5 days here, and we're talking, you know, about life in general, but also about business and seeing how Termageddon run and the complexities around getting privacy policies, cookie laws, everything that is not generic, that can be specifically for a website. And what Spencer's saying is that the poor website owners that have only got the maximum $2,000 budget, they're just overwhelmed by all this. And whatever we are as of now, my life now, every marketing company in the world that wants to know about me knows everything about me. Exactly. As a demographic. It's that simple. Right. And I'm getting tired and bored of these kind of articles about privacy and what it matters. We have no privacy, guys. If you have a mobile phone, you have no privacy. If you have a tax number, you have no privacy. It's that simple. So, you know, get over it. Press the unsubscribe button. If you don't want to accept the cookies, don't accept the cookies and visit any other website that you want to do. You know, we need to control it to the degree of that it doesn't go down to my actual name, my age, my illnesses and everything like that. And I agree with HIPAA. But the point is general tracking, general advertising. So what? You know, if I'm going to get marketed to,
And it's to the disadvantage of
TV
the
every
site
day.
owner. That's the difference. Like right now,
Exactly.
Chris Coyer has to decide whether to pay his bills because he turns off all the tools that give him even basic knowledge. Whereas Facebook isn't so precious. They get all the data. Google gets the data. My television gets the data. Why shouldn't the site owner, who has to deal with all the warnings and the contact of the person, get none of the benefits?
I get it.
Whereas the other people are taking it regardless.
Yeah, well, especially in Europe, and I come to the conclusion that most of this is just for show. It's kind of theatre.
Well, it's Amazon and
a lot of
Facebook's
penalty
fault, isn't it?
threat.
Well, it is Amazon and Facebook's fault that we've had to go through this rubbish, you know. But we've always had, in the UK, we've always had GDPR in some kind of version. You know, one of the things is that if you want to know GDPR rules or the UK version of GDPR, you go to the IOC website, I think it is, and or ICO.org website, and it is in plain English what you have to do. You go
I
to
want to
Europe,
point.
you can't. It's like and America. It's a total shit show, you know.
Yeah, I want to point out to the panel, I've gone to Amazon Re-Educational School, or if you look at my latest Twitters, I just wanted to say, Amazon, you're a great company. You really look after your employees like queens and kings, which they are. You know, your working conditions are fantastic, and your boss, he's a true humanity individual that really, really is compassionate and gives everything he, you know, to society, and he shows that he really cares. So I think the re-education's gone really well, hasn't it? So there we are. On to our recommendations of the week. Well, funny enough, we were talking about, I think you need, not all the time, but especially when you're traveling, you need a good VPN. And I was looking at one, and if you're based in America and you do need a good VPN, I think, you definitely need one outside the US, because if you purchase a VPN that's based in the US, you're wasting your time. And choosing a VPN partner in a country that has good legal basis is important. So I chose Proton VPN because they're based in Switzerland, and their code is open source, and they're transparent and have transparent technology. So I recommend those if you want a good quality. They do offer a really good free product, but I bought a paid version because I think it had more functionality, and I think I use it when I'm in public hotspots, because I've been hacked a couple of times and I learnt my lesson. So, Spencer, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
Yeah, I'm going to put it in here, Spencer. I did a quick video this week. I posted it for a product called Yay Currency, which is one of several plugins from this development group that I really think is doing neat stuff. It essentially allows you, if you sell internationally, like your clients could be in any country, to allow them to see your WooCommerce products and checkouts in their native currency. But it also has a feature with their very inexpensive Pro version that allows that to draw the current daily exchange rate. So for example, I have a lot of customers in Israel or Great Britain. They basically see my products and services on WooCommerce in their native price at today's exchange rate. Really freaking amazing plugin. Like, I was able to set it up with zero reading of the instructions, which to me is, you know, my normal trial. But the free version does almost everything the paid one does, so you can just play with it. I did a video, that's why I'm pointing over to the Launch Club, because the video shows the highlights of how you just set it up and get it going. I talked to them about the fact that their videos are being done by somebody who does not speak English as a native language. And I said, that's not helping you out, because the products are amazing, but the video The video, I couldn't understand a single word what was being said.
Bit like me, really. But, you know, a lot of Americans don't understand, which is very,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
but it
actually
wasn't-
quite beneficial because if they
It wasn't
really
like
understood what I
scouse.
was-
It was like, I don't know what the intonation was, but it was just, the products are terrific and they're very responsive. I have had email conversations with them. So I would say Yay Commerce is something for even a normal WordPress site to check out if you have anybody out of your country who's buying your stuff.
So, Andrew, have you got a reputation?
Well, I've got 3 because I've been stuck. I came into this country for 4 days, and it's now my 17th day.
Yeah, you just can't get out, can you?
I know, I just can't get out.
Have to come you might have to stay with me.
I was kidnapped a couple of times. Went up to Tampa, Nashville, Chicago, whatever. But I really want to say thanks and give kudos to the people that run WPLaunchify.com. That's Spencer. Termageddon.com, that's Hans and Donata, and FocusWP.co, because these guys, and obviously GridPane.com as well, because these guys took the time and trouble to look after me very, very well in the States, and I very much appreciate them, and you'll appreciate them. I appreciate them as individuals, and I appreciate them as entrepreneurs, and I appreciate them as people that want to help people in the WordPress community. So those are my recommendations for this week. And just a public thank you to all of them for helping me get through this 17 days.
Yeah, there we are, in a kind of alcoholic.
You're like Tom Hanks in the movie where you're stuck in the airport.
Yeah, you never know.
Crazy.
Could be worse.
I spent almost 3 days, 8 years ago in Chicago airport, Spencer.
When?
Oh, Christmas time, 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah, but you didn't look me up then. I knew you then, but you didn't look me up then.
I couldn't afford it because you probably charged me your $300 an hour. There we go. John, got any recommendations?
I do. It's a site called lunchdebtsbs.org or lunchdebtsrbs. This is a donation site to help pay down lunch debts, which it's just a dystopian phrase to begin with. Kids in school, punished for lunch debt, humiliated by these schools. It's just, it is. I mean, it's
sorry,
ridiculous.
I'm not laughing.
No, it's really
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing.
He's
because...
speaking the truth. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
There was just a video I saw yesterday about the school cops tackling a little 11-year-old black girl because she took a milk carton. I mean, the school shame them or they get them arrested. It's ridiculous. Like, it's freaking school.
1312, my friend. Anyway, this site, lunchdebtsbs.org. This is run by Brianna Bond, who's been a long time member of the WordPress community. All this money goes down to paying down lunch debt. So worthy cause. Jason Tucker is actually the guy that brought this to my attention. So yeah.
Oh, we have to have Jason on the. I have to invite Jason back on the show. We haven't spoken for a while. Yeah. But make sure it's in Slack, John.
I'll put it in Slack. Yeah.
Just put it in Slack because I got to promote that. It's not funny really, but it's just my dark English humour. So there we go. Well, I call it humour. I think a lot of the panel would call it something else, but there we go. Panel, thank you. It's been a great show. Thanks, Tribe, for listening. We will be back next week with another great panel. I think it's been a great show. We'll see you soon, panel. Bye.